They're so deeply uncomfortable about every aspect of sex that they don't actually care about wars or destroying the environment or financial corruption. But anything to do with sex sets them off. And it's because these people are operating at a very, very low level of mental health. They are incapable of understanding the teaching.
You have a place here, I take it, right?
Yes, here in Hollywood.
Right.
I love America. I used to live in New York, and I have an apartment there. I absolutely adore this country. Like you, I feel I could live here for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
What fascinates me is how people watching her on television, can they not see that she's basically learned certain speeches? If you lined up from Europe, left-wingers, centrists, right-wingers, you wouldn't find 10%. You probably wouldn't find 5% who think she's good enough to run the United States.
The population of America came here by choice. They wanted to come. They wanted to leave Europe, mostly Europe, and come here and start a new life. So, in a sense, the gene pool is people who said, no, this isn't good enough. There can be something better. I'm leaving. And they left behind people who said, oh, I daren't.
No, yeah, we'll stay.
I think we'll stay. So Europe is just basically a gene pool of people whose ancestors said, I don't think I can risk. No, I can't risk it. America is a gene pool of people say, let's risk it.
Yeah,
let's try it.
And you think that's still
I feel it. I feel pride in America, but then I felt pride in America before I even set foot here. It's a very odd thing. I would watch movies and, I know, something like John Ford's Young Mr. Lincoln, and I would feel a sort of emotional whoomph inside me as if it was the founding of my country. And America has that.
I think the most puzzling thing for foreigners is American football. American sports were basically constructed by very clever people who understood that what Americans wanted to do more than anything else was talk. So you invented sports that were extremely violent, but which only occupied a very short bit of activity. Do you see what I mean? Like basketball, 24 seconds, American football, 7 seconds,
When it comes to comedy, it's satisfactorily, I think, obvious that the American comic hero is a wisecracker who is above his material and who is above the idiots around him. And the British comic, put it this way, the American comic hero, like John Belushi or someone like that, is you know that scene in Animal House where there's a fellow playing folk music on a guitar, and John Belushi picks up the guitar and destroys it. And the cinema lot, he just smashes it and then waggles his eyebrows at the camera.
Americans, they seem to be very envious about intelligence, and the idea of actually being with someone who's sort of intelligent, well-informed and educated, Ivy League, exactly. Not a proper American, And so there's a sort of envy of that with the result that they want someone that they'll be comfortable with who is not going to be terribly bright or very highly intelligent or awfully sharp or very good judge of people. That's rather alarming.
American optimism is a really important thing. If you go to an American bookshop, by far the biggest section is self-help and improvement. The idea that life is refinable and improvable and that you can learn a technique for anything, whether it's lovemaking, being a businessman, a marriage, cooking, losing weight, whatever it is, there's an NLP way of doing it, there's an Anthony Robbins way of doing it, there's a things they didn't teach you at Harvard way of doing it. There's an unbelievable sense that life is improvable, that you can be lectured at, or indeed given a sermon at, it's the Protestant base of America, that things are done by text and by works, as opposed to by submission and by a doctrine in the way that the higher church, European rump, we still believe.
There are many Christians in the United States who seem to think that capitalism and Protestantism are almost interchangeable. A rather unpleasant joke that was told in America, and it involved a particular immigrant culture. And the joke was, how do you get this number of, how do you get the maximum number of people of this immigrant culture into the back of a Volkswagen? And the answer was throwing a coin in the back of it.
All my adult life, I have been what you might call a lefty, a liberal. I've been on marches. I grew up knowing that I was gay. I character myself mostly as a social justice warrior. I want racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, bullying, bigotry, intolerance of all human kinds to end. I think we all instinctively know that there is some kind of a problem. There isn't censorship. Of course not in the way that there is in Russia. I've been to Russia. I faced off with a deeply homophobic and unpleasant man, and there's political correctness in Russia. It's just political correctness on the right. Russell Means, who was a friend of mine towards the end, who founded the American Indian movement, he said, "Oh, for God's sake, call me an Indian or a Lakota Sioux or Russell. I don't care what you call me. It's how we're treated that matters."